When I first arrived in Italy, I was struck by how beautiful the scenery was, and by how historically rich my surroundings were. Throughout the 3 weeks, I found out how history is incredibly ingrained into all aspects of daily life. My learning plan had been to study obesity, because it's one of the most visible manifestations of poor health, and is so reflective of the daily lifestyle habits of a culture. My learning plan questions were really to get to the root of why Italians were generally thin, and what I found was that the health outcomes are so deeply connected to tradition and the cultural habits and customs acquired over time. One definite contributor to weight is food, and the open-air produce markets gave me the impression that Italians definitely get their recommended amounts of fruits and vegetables every day. Every Tuesday and Thursday was a market morning, where there would be stands of fresh food lining the little streets near Vicenza Center. Even more impressive is the market in Padova, which is literally an entire square full of produce. The market has been renowned for centuries as having the freshest and greatest selection of herbs, fruits, and vegetables. This market takes place every single morning, so it's no surprise that Italians from many surrounding cities come to this market to buy their produce. Though there are weekend farmers markets in the U.S., it's usually not the main source of a family's produce. However, this abundance of fresh, seasonal, local, and affordable foods at these markets in Italy is surely an incentive for Italians to cook and eat fresh fruits and vegetables. In addition to the fruits and vegetables, there are also many other types of food sold at these markets. At Vicenza's market, I noticed that rotisserie chicken gastronomia stands and cheese stands were very popular. In Padova, there were also quaint specialty shops in the market, selling fresh homemade pasta and pastries. There were butcher shops selling meat, without the meat even being refrigerated. As an American, it was shocking to see the flies buzzing around outside air-temperature meat, but Italians really had no qualms about it. The shops are so popular and so contrary to the sterile way we sell food in the U.S. But it's what is accepted and what Italians are used to. They stand by the quality of food they get there. And buying food from these vendors is not only a transaction, but a social interchange too. The shoppers return to the same vendors and make conversation as old friends. Visiting these markets gave me a good idea of what Italians value in their food. Freshness, knowing the seller, high quality. However, I felt that visiting a grocery store would make it easier to find out what Italians ate on a day-to-day basis. Entering the Pam grocery store on the first day, I was immediately impressed with the fresh fruits and vegetables that I saw first thing. The food seemed to be seasonal and fresh, and for the most part cheaper than that I could find in my local U-District QFC or Safeway. The produce was also always labeled with the source, and most of the fruits and vegetables came from Italy. This seems to stem from the belief that foods grown in Italy are of higher quality and fresher, which they probably are. I had learned that there are trends in Italy towards more convenient foods, as the traditional family structure is less common with the entrance of women into the workforce. I was curious about how frequently frozen foods or processed foods are eaten, though I wasn't quite able to find a definite answer. I found the frozen food shelves at the very back of the grocery store. It wasn't much compared to the amount of frozen food and processed food in the U.S., and it didn't seem like anyone was too interested in those foods. However, it was obvious that Italians loved their pasta. An entire aisle was devoted to pasta, and the most popular brands often ran low. Along with the pasta, there was also half an aisle devoted to tomato sauce, and more brands of olive oil than I ever imagined possible. In fact, I couldn't find any kind of oil other than olive oil. In addition to finding out about how Italians purchase ingredients, I also experienced the overall food culture through our group dinners. The food was delicious, and I really appreciated the slow food concept. Unlike the eat-and-go culture of the U.S., it seems that Italians truly cultivate a culinary taste and enjoy their meals. The portions aren't necessarily large, but the dinner is paced with the different courses. There's a regulation to the order of food that Americans aren't used to. A dinner seems sometimes to be a side of bread, a beverage of wine, an appetizer possibly, one or two pasta dishes, a meat and vegetables dish, and then finally dessert. It combines together to create a well-balanced meal. Meals are a time for social gathering, and that social interaction that comes with meals is valued immensely in Italian culture. I never imagined eating for 4.5 hours, regardless of how much food is presented. But in good company and with such good food, the time flies by. Physical activity is another key component to healthy weight, and traditional customs and social environment promote an active lifestyle. The city layout in Vicenza draws activity to the main square at the center, and most people travel into the center by foot or by bike. The tradition of the passeggiata, or evening stroll, also encourages couples and families to walk around. There are also a lot of city-planned events that draws Italians to leave their homes, venture out, and socialize. These range from fashion shows to artisan markets and carnivals. Not to mention the bi-weekly market always draws a crowd as well. The pedestrian and bike-friendly streets allow for this type of culture, whereas in the U.S., streets are often too traffic-heavy or dangerous. There's also a lot of urban sprawl, and the largely suburban car-dependent lifestyle isn't too great for walking. In Vicenza, I experienced a city lifestyle in which I could get around on foot or by public transportation or train if I need. The historical design of the city was meant for walking, and that tradition carries into today. At the end of my trip, I conclude that Italians were generally thin because of the historical traditions that have shaped their values. A historically agricultural, family-centered society, life was about enjoying family social interaction and eating quality food that was grown fresh on the farm and cooked by the mama. The history of pasta dishes, open-air markets, and walking culture has made a strong mark on Italian life today. Italians don't necessarily eat completely healthily. Gelato is widely popular, as are pastries and pizza, but these seemingly unhealthy traditions still fit into the social, active lifestyle of Italians. Even McDonald's, which is becoming quite common in Italy, is a venue for young people's social interaction more than a quick place for a dinner. But as globalization brings in the influence of outside cultures and forces Italy to become competitive on a global market, the general values and structure of society faces the possibility of a significant shift. The American concept of efficiency threatens the traditional lifestyle habits, such as long family meals, buying fresh food at the market, and walking or biking instead of driving. The increase of very tasty, convenient, but fatty foods threatens the traditional diet. Instead, there's more to be done in a day and a more fast-paced lifestyle. It's a careful balance between holding on to tradition and embracing the changing world, and many Italians recognize the changing trends. Still, with such a strong sense of their history, tradition, and values, they will hopefully continue the habits that maintain their relatively healthy society. This trip allowed me to reflect on the global changes that affect society and to better understand the factors that strongly influence health outcomes. I truly enjoyed my trip and really appreciated this opportunity. Thanks a lot.